the work that we're doing, it's really, it's changing the perceptions that people have of companies, and making people want to join. And, the bigger the better, right? It just feels like, a really good space for community and camaraderie when we're engaging this in the right way.
Welcome to Blu Thread Conversations, the podcast where we explore all things employer brand, culture, and reputation. Hosted by Stacy Parker and Leandra Harris, co-founders of Blu Ivy Group, a North American leader in employer brand and culture strategy. In today's episode, we're joined by Sonia Rose, a dynamic leader and employer brand powerhouse, driving culture and connection at Pure Storage, one of the world's most innovative technology companies and a recognized top employer in the enterprise data storage industry. You'll hear how Sonia helped Pure Storage build a globally admired EVP, an employer brand that attracts, unites, and inspires top talent, steer brand momentum through leadership transitions with clarity and conviction, transform their EVP into a powerful internal employer promise, bringing meaning to moments across the employee experience, and why her mastery of executive stakeholdering and community building is the secret behind turning strategy into lasting impact. Let's dive in.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm ex I'm
Uh,
excited.
yeah, same. I've been wanting the wonderful Sonia to join our podcast. Been waiting patiently for over a year, waiting for some of the employer brand work to be launched, and measured, and finally the moment has arisen. Thank you, Sonia, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
I think before we get really deep into some of the questions, Sonia, can you introduce for the audience yourself, your background, and what you do at Pure Storage?
Sure. As you know, I'm Sonia Rose, and I have been doing employee engagement and experience before it was even called that. So, for over 20 years, I've been in this field and worked in retail, financial services, and technology. Currently, I work at Pure Storage, and where I lead talent brand, internal experience events, recognition programs, and cultural initiatives globally.
Amazing. And Pure Storage, there's people that may not be familiar with Pure Storage that are listening. Can you talk a little bit about Pure Storage and what makes it a uniquely great place to work?
Sure, would love that. So, when I think of what makes Pure unique, well, first of all, I should say we're a data storage platform. And without, data centers, this call wouldn't be possible. So, to think about what we're doing, that we're really serving the world, I think is incredibly important. And I think the folks that work here know that as well, because without the work that we're doing to support critical infrastructure around the world, none of this would be possible. So I think we're really, feel that we have a very powerful mission in front of us to really make sure we're transforming the data storage industry.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love
It's a
that.
really growing industry
Yeah,
right now.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're here, and I'm a fan too, because I've been behind the scenes, Sonia, looking at the amazing work that Pure has been doing with respect to your employer branding strategy. Would love to know kind of what makes Pure Storage unique. What is your employee value proposition? And what have you done to date with respect to employer branding messaging? Like, share with us. I've seen it, but no one else, share with our listeners. What's your tagline? Where can we see all this great branding?
For us at Pure Storage, our EVP is what we refer to internally as Peer's People Promise.
Oh, I
And it's
love it.
really centered around three pillars: peer innovation, peer growth, and peer team. Because we want both our team members and then our prospective candidates to apply to know that at Peer, you're empowered to innovate, you have solid growth opportunities, and you're supported by the team. So, our new tagline that pairs with that is bring your best, bring your bold, pure and simple. Now, we're still very actively rolling out the EVP. I often jokingly say we're going cave by cave to make sure we're touching all of the things. But right now, if you went to purestorage.com into our career section, you'd be able to see it there. You'd be able to see it on LinkedIn Life. We expanded our presence there as well. And one of the things we're currently actively working on right now is our presence on social media. We're trying to build our social media strategy to make sure that we're seeing it more there. But we've given our EVP to the hands of our wonderful recruiting team who are actively using all of those marketing collateral to give to prospective candidates to showcase what kind of company Pure Storage is.
And what work, Sonia, led you to? Like, what was involved to get you to that part where you uncovered those three pillars of the promise?
Well,
What was
I could
involved in that? Because it looks like there was a lot of work in there involved. You spoke with a lot of people, which is great.
And it's certainly, I need to caveat this, that this certainly predated my time at Pure
Yep.
Storage because I joined when the train had already left the station. So we had a whole core team consisting of marketing, our recruiting team, many other groups within the organization that helped guide the discovery of what the EVP ended up being. So when I joined the company as a new hire and I was indoctrinated into EVP, obviously what I saw from the beginning was like, okay, it's clearly externally focused, rightfully so. But also saw an opportunity to really expand on what we were doing inside to make sure that if someone gets hired with the company, what they see on the outside matches what is on the inside. And so that's part of what our exploration was to make sure that we really expanded and it's almost like a spider web of sorts to see how far internally we can make it go as well, to really make sure that it feels like one talent brand for the organization.
Mhm. I love
Yeah,
that.
to me, Sonia, that was like one of the moments of delight I had while working with
Right.
you is the moment that you said this has got to be our employer promise. Can you maybe share with listeners a little bit about that light bulb moment for you, about the resonation of the EVP as a promise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, obviously we were very jazzed and pumped that we landed on these three solid pillars. And I know that, sometimes when you say things to employees, if we
Mhm.
said EVP, employee value proposition, they're going to look at that and go, what is that?
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily resonate. That's just, HR speak or marketing speak. We really wanted to show it in a way that would connect to them. So it'd be easy for them to understand. So, when we looked at it, it wasn't hard to reimagine it into a promise. And when it came together, it was like it was meant to be. It was almost serendipitous in a way. And we've found that as I've worked, continue to work on this project, currently right now I'm working on new hire orientation and I'm going to introduce them to the people promise. And I realized that, inadvertently, the way I framed the whole onboarding experience is around the people promise. And I'm like, it sticks, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something that resonates well with folks as we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And from a retention perspective, we're having so many conversations about retention and driving engagement right now. And you can really see how that people promise, when it's positioned that way, can reinforce the reasons why we stay within an organization.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how much stakeholdering have you had to do, Sonia, on here's this promise, and you need to make sure your leaders, get it and understand it and are aligned with it? Has a lot of your time been spent kind of stakeholdering and getting your leaders aligned with that promise?
In the beginning, being new to the project, I had to
Yeah.
understand like where we were,
Mhm.
what level of knowledge was out there, and who I needed to bring along. So it
Yeah.
was really an interesting journey because imagine being a new hire tasked with this when you don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
know who all the players are, right?
For sure.
So it was a
Like, you're
lot of
amazing.
it's a lot of like studying org charts to figure out who's going to care about this most. Now,
Yeah.
within my organization and the leadership team, of course, they were guiding me along the way, but making sure that everyone was aligned. I think we had a really pivotal moment when we had a company operating review, and I was asked to go in and speak to about the EVP. And there were many players in that room that I had never met before. So, and I knew that some people already knew and some didn't. So it was a balance with the messaging, making sure that I was giving just the right level of information so that if people don't know, they can catch on really quickly.
Yeah.
And if those that already knew, they're not just sitting there hearing something that they already know. And
Yeah.
I think in that moment with the leaders and how I showed them some of the early assets that we had, we played a video. It was very clear that I had buy-in when I walked out of that room. And that was such a wonderful feeling knowing that like that was the green light to move forward.
Yeah, and I just
Yeah.
have to say, like, isn't that brilliant too? Like, having someone like you, Sonia, come in, not at the beginning, and you can kind of be like, "Okay, is this really what I'm seeing, on the outside and in the inside?" Right? So you can kind of validate it as you kind of uncover, and learn about all the stakeholders. So I think that's really cool and probably why it's been really successful to date, the launch and activation because of you and coming in from the outside, which is great.
Well, and I can't take credit all by myself. I have a wonderful team that I'm working with that have been by my side this entire time. And for every twist and turn that we went through, as we were essentially all learning together and
Mm,
plus learning how to work, amongst each other.
yeah.
Because sometimes, you have to be able to, is it forming, storming, norming, right?
Yeah.
We
Yep.
had to go through all of that very quickly and build that trust. And essentially become super sleuths sometimes to be able to figure out what's the next step to get done or who can help us in this endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that like one, Leandra, I love your observation there about Sonia coming in
Mhm.
after the project had started, because I think there wasn't assumption. You did not come in with
No.
assumptions. You came in as a new hire with that experience and really dug in. Is this resonating with me? Is this the experience that I've had? Is this why I joined? So you asked more questions
Mm.
rather than making long-term assumptions. The complexity of that stakeholdering, I think, is
Mhm.
always one of the biggest challenges that every employer brand leader has. You work not only with a global organization where there were leaders in many countries. I think in Europe you had in Prague some leadership there, but you also experience something that employer brand leaders often come up against, which is major leadership
Mm.
changes in brand, in the talent acquisition team. Can you talk to us, and to the listeners a little bit about how you stayed anchored and focused and navigated successfully through some of those big changes? Like, those are big decision makers that left, new people that came in. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Sure, sure. I think that obviously those were some curveballs that I did not
Mhm.
anticipate as we're going through. But it was one of those things where it's like with every change, it was a moment to regroup and see like, is this still the right path that we're taking, or how do we get those leaders involved and engaged? So that was one of the things we did straight away, especially during this time frame. We got a wonderful new chief marketing officer and immediately it was like, okay, when can we get on her
Mm.
calendar? She
Mm.
needs to know about this work that we're doing because obviously she would be doing some of her own work within the organization, right?
Mm.
And so we met with her and brought her along on the journey, and she gave some very critical feedback at the end that really changed how we were thinking about the entire project. So I can't imagine what would have happened if we didn't just engage in that conversation. I don't think we would be where we are today if we didn't have that happen. So incredibly grateful that we had that opportunity and that we aligned because I think we came out even better. I do think that everything happens for a reason. And although we had plenty of times when we're like, we're ready to move forward, like we want to shout it from the rooftops, like this is what we're doing, there were pauses that were put along the way. And I think it would, maybe it's the universe, like was saying, not yet,
Yeah.
there's some more work to be done. But at the end of the day, we're incredibly proud of where we are right now.
I was just gonna go through. I've got some like rapid fire questions for fun. We're gonna break it up.
Oh, okay.
You ready? Like rapid
Okay.
fire. The first one, really important. Coke or Pepsi?
I'm definitely going to say Coke.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't know why. I don't know why I would say
I don't know
that,
why
but
either. Like, I
just
know. I
came to
wasn't
me.
sure. I know. I wasn't sure which way you were gonna go.
Maybe it's because it's
Um,
first in the alphabet. I don't know. Uh,
um, most unexpected lesson learned.
I think that that's supposed to be fast. I would say how quickly I adapted to the company's values, and acting upon those values that we have.
Love that. Favorite internal activation moment where you were like, "Oh, this feels so good and so real and so authentic."
When we turned on LinkedIn Live, because it was the very first thing that we did, and it felt like we made it. It really was awesome.
Love that. Love that. One word your team would use to describe you.
Resilient.
Great word. I think, and that's it. Oh gosh, if anyone asks us, what's a great trait for anyone who's in our work? Resiliency,
Resilience.
for sure. Yeah. What's next on your employer branding bucket list? What do you want to conquer next?
We want to expand more on our career site, and one of the things that through a conversation I actually had with Stacy about AI,
Mm.
she piqued some interest in me, and I'm like, I really want to be able to influence the algorithms that are out there, that those learning models, and deep dive into what people are learning about Pure Storage and see how we can
Mm.
influence. Because I think that's going to be incredibly powerful, especially considering so many people that are actually leveraging AI to, in their job search.
Love that. That's the end of my quick fire. You did well. I love AI and talking about AI because we are obviously everyone's talking about it. We're obsessed with it when it comes to measurement. Sonia, like love using AI to kind of measure sentiment and what's the percentage of positive mentions that are online about your organization. And I just love that you can access this 24/7. What are you doing and what's Pure Storage done to date when it comes to measuring impact of this work?
We're in the process of setting up our metrics right now,
Okay.
and thinking through. I mean, obviously, there were metrics that were already existing, but we have the metrics that are running on our website, and obviously, the social tools that we're using. But we're in the middle of our goal process right now of planning out what our goals are for the year, and metrics are a key component of that to be able to measure our success. So there's a lot of discussion going on right now on what are those levers that we should be thinking of the most.
And what do you have any favorite levers? Like, because I've seen some scorecards, Sonia, where it's like 4 pages long, and I'm like, geez, this is a lot to track. Um, do you have any favorite where you're like, this, if we were only to measure kind of three things, I'd really focus here?
Well, it's funny. I think we are the group that has the 4 pages, and we're trying to narrow it down. Was just talking about that the other day. There's so many. There's so many to choose from. I think
Yeah.
for me, it's if we can get feedback from like the candidates and their perspective of the
Mhm.
brand, whether
Mhm.
that's through a candidate survey or something that a new hire takes initially, I think is key. As well as if there's anything we can get from the TA organization related to the quality of hire. I think those things in my mind, but it is subjective in a way because it does require the manager to give feedback, after the person starts to figure out if, how they fit on the scale.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
Yep. Yep. And you're not the first one where we've heard that It's like 4 or 5 pages long. So we've done it ourselves. So that's great. That's great.
One of our clients in the retail space, Sonia, actually they called it the candidate love score, which was how
Yes.
they measured quality of hire. And it was that a mandatory, 3 months after the candidate had been hired, a mandatory survey, just a very short scaling answer of how much they fit within the organization. And that's how they measured quality of hire. And tracked quality of hire as a result of the employer brand.
I love
Um,
that. I I
yeah,
I
really
definitely
simple.
feel like one of the things we were just looking at is how many touch points do we have for the first year, with an
Totally.
employee? Uh, when should we put those critical surveys in place, right?
Mhm.
To make sure that we're catching it at the beginning and so that you get it while it's still rich and they
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Because we do have an annual survey that every employee takes, and it's really important to us. But we think that first year is so critical. We're looking to see like how many of them should there be, and how can we partner with other teams so that
Mhm.
we're not doing survey overload.
yeah, yeah. That's great. I know we're so passionate about this right now and measuring
Mhm.
it and actually tracking to business performance. We're so excited about how we can see a bit of a shift happening in terms of performance measurement for an organization as a whole based
Mhm.
on the employer brand and employee experience. So love that you're doing that. Sonia, I do think that listeners would get a lot out of, I know we've talked a little bit about stakeholdering, but I think
Mhm.
listeners would get a lot out of understanding, when to push, when to pause, when to
Mhm.
elevate issues to get an employer brand successfully bought in by leadership. Can you just for a couple of minutes talk to us about the skills that are needed to successfully navigate that?
Sure. I think the biggest piece in my mind is the storytelling because you have to be able to, bring people along to your vision. And oftentimes in my past, I've seen presentation decks that, it's clear that a lot of thought went into it. There's a lot of pages, but are they really being succinct in delivering the message and the why? Because it always has to start with the why. Why are you doing this? Why should people care? And what are the metrics that you're going to be able to lift as a result of this? So I think that making sure that you have like a pitch deck that you can leverage and use with everyone that you're, bringing into the circle, the inner circle of this as you're working on it, is really important because these folks can be your biggest allies and your strategic advisors. I also think from a stakeholdering perspective, and this is something that I learned a long time ago, is that obviously there are the leaders that you need to go to get information, but those leaders have a trusted circle. So it's always good to stress test with those that are in that inner circle, to understand like what's the likelihood of what's the leader going to say to kind of almost like poke holes in what it is that you're presenting. That way, when you do get that moment and when you're in front of that particular leader, you've already got a sense of what they're about, their thought process, because you've leveraged that inner circle. And that is something that I think probably isn't done enough because people are just like, I need this person's approval. I just need to go get it. Right. Which is true. You do need it, but you need to be tactful in how you do it. And so I think all of the things that you can do to engage, because I think what also happens is a leader gets information about something. And they're like, what is this? Like, I'd like, and so they'll start talking, to that inner circle, and you can have built-in allies in there if you've already pre-done those conversations. And that can help influence and get to decisions faster.
Love. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that, like, that is brilliant advice, the pitch deck. Like, if you can't capture these stakeholders' attention in a few minutes because they have 5 million other things on their plate and they don't immediately see, why should I care?" Then, like, I think that's
Mhm.
brilliant,
It
brilliant
is.
advice, and tackling the inner circle, like, I think that's brilliant, Sonia.
Mhm,
Because a lot of
mhm.
us, right, get in that, "Okay, check, I did it," but not
Yeah.
really putting yourself in their shoes and recognizing they've got a lot on their plate. very
Yeah.
numbers focused. Why does this matter? Why will this help to move the needle? So brilliant advice.
And I
Brilliant.
would also just add to that, that in that pitch deck, they're leaders that are going to want all the information, right?
Okay.
But you really, it's like in journalism, they refer to it as like the nut graph at the top, right? Where you want to be as concise as possible, like if you read the Wall Street Journal. And then there's all of the other stuff related to the rest of the article. It's the same way when you're doing a pitch deck. You have to get as much as possible upfront in a concise way. And then the appendix, that's where all the additional data is. So if you have someone that really is into the data and understanding the thought process behind it, it's there for them. But for everyone else, they just need the TLDR at the top.
Mhm.
Yep. Love
Mhm.
that.
I love that. And you
Yep.
know what there's another gem there, Sonia, because so often I feel that when projects are initiated by organizations, one of the mistakes is they think of it as I need to have really strong project management skills to get this to the finish line. And it is, as you mentioned, that going to get approvals, to seek
Mhm.
approvals. I want to show you it fully baked so that I have my moment to present and impress and check off the PM process. But it really, the power is in bringing them along the ride and co-creating and with some of those big stakeholders like you have done.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want to make sure that their voice is heard,
Yeah.
and that they feel like they're part of it. Because if they're
Yep.
part of it, then it's easier to get it off the ground later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you most excited to build next?
I think it goes back to that AI piece,
The
right?
AI stuff?
And leaning in there to understand, like, because I feel like, there's things that I know I want to do, but I'm like, I need to validate, are they the right things to do?
Mhm.
And I think doing some of that self-discovery related to going out there and seeing what AI is showing me will help influence how I want to, dive in and make updates in the future.
Mm. You know what? Because we appreciate you joining us. We will do a little bit of a review for you and show you what AI is revealing from a
Mhm.
brand perspective. Yeah,
Awesome. Love
sure.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Um, Sonia, we're so as a closing, we've been so grateful to have you on this podcast, and there's just been so many gems that you've shared. But would love to get advice from you for us. What do you wish, agencies and vendors and partners that work with you, what do you wish they asked you, or what do you wish, they did differently?
One of the most biggest benefits I see of working with an agency partner is the fact that you work with so many others, right?
Right.
In my space, I'm working with my team and we're doing our thing. And, we might put our heads up, every now and then to kind of see what's going out in the external landscape. But for myself, talent brand is just one part of my job. So I'm not constantly, all day focused on talent brand. I have my head in a lot of different spaces. So I think that the benefits of working with folks like you is the fact that you are out there. This is like your bread and butter in what you're doing. So being able to be the ones that are finding the latest trends and sharing that information out, and being like a pseudo extended member of the team, right? Because this is about long-term relationships. I think is incredibly important, because not everyone in this space is got the same purview that you do, working with so many different clients. So I'm like, spill the tea. I want to know the tea. What's going on out there, so that I could stay ahead of the curve. I think that would be super important and something I wish that everyone just did naturally. Because at the end of the day, everything that we're doing as a collective is just going
Yeah.
to help with employee experience. I mean, candidate experience as well. And that's something that, for me is I'm so passionate about. I'm like, "Look, I think we should all just rally around this and do it the right way."
And I have to ask, I'm so sorry because there are so many people in our roles and your roles that are burnt out, tired. It's tough. It's been a tough couple of years, but I see your passion. And like Stacy and I, like we love what we do. We're so, so passionate. Not saying that there are hard times, but where does your passion come from? Like, what do you get so excited about this work? Because I think now is the time to do what we all do. It's such an exciting time, so many opportunities. But what gets you all excited? Because I can see it.
I think for me, it's I really love delivering positive experiences. And I really want to give that red carpet experience with everything that I do. So I get really jazzed up about that. And I think in reality, I think it's because I'm an introvert. People don't believe me when I say that, but I truly am. And so for me to see that reaction on the other side, whether it's via survey feedback or if I did an in-person event or whatever the case may be, it's seeing how people are interacting and engaging. And that positive energy I feel is contagious. And it's something that just keeps me lit up. And not to mention as well as that the work that we're doing, it's really, it's changing the perceptions that people have of companies, and making people want to join. And, the bigger the better, right? It just feels like, a really good space for community and camaraderie when we're this in the right way.
Stace, wrap it nuts. What else can you say?
Yeah, Sonia, it has shown up with you from the moment that we had the pleasure of working with you. The team at Blu Ivy that got to work with you only sings praises
Hmm.
as one of the best experiences they have ever had working on an employer brand initiative. So that energy that you bring to Pure Storage, it's felt as a vendor community as well. So you really are building that camaraderie um, everywhere. So thank you for the energy that you bring, and that we get to continue to create and ideate on how to build even more for Pure Storage. It really is a fantastic place.
Thank you. I agree too. I'm no biased, but it's
Yeah.
awesome. It was a pleasure working with you all as well. Definitely the lifeline that I know I needed in my early days of getting to know Pure Storage and being indoctrinated into this super, super important project.
Yeah. I'm excited about where things are headed for you, all of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, and all the best.
Because Leandra, the storyline needs to pull through. Sonia, we talk about my father-in-law at the beginning or the end of every show. He found love in an old age home. And they moved in together. The last podcast we recorded, they had moved in together. We were over for a visit on the weekend, and it is terrifying walking through this condo that they have because there is so much accumulated lifetime worth of material. But they are the absolute cutest, holding hands the whole time, very
Woo.
proud that they are the first couple within the home to officially move in together after
Oh my
meeting.
gosh. So sweet.
Yeah. So
Isn't
looking
it?
forward to seeing them on the Parkland marketing material. The love you can find. It's like a cruise ship.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah,
love it. I
love
love
it.
it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining so early today, Sonia.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.